ये सीरीज ब्लास्ट हुआ था ना बांग्लादेश में, किसका काम था वो?
ये कौन सी साल में?
ये सीरीज ऑफ ब्लास्ट हुआ था ना
2005 में। हाँ, ये मैंने अखबार से पता चला कि ये JMB वालों का काम था। JMB, जमातुल मुजाहिदीन बांग्लादेश का।
हाँ, ये बैंगलोर का शूट आउट के बारे में कुछ पता है आपको? किसका हाथ है?
अटैक की जो तरीका है, जो किस्म है, इस किस्म पर इस किस्म के हिसाब से ये शाहिद, इसके पीछे शाहिद का हाथ है। शाहिद और मुतलिब दोनों का। या तो वो लोग खुद आए हैं या लोग आदमी भेज के ये काम किया।
उसका आदमी और कौन कौन है?
मुतलिब का आदमी शरीफ नाम वाला एक आदमी है, वो बांग्लादेश में अरेस्टेड है। और दो एक नाम सुना है, हिलाल का नाम सुना है।
वो कहाँ पे है?
हिलाल, उसके बारे में पता नहीं, लेकिन हो सकते वो भी अरेस्ट है, या बांग्लादेश में होगा या इंडिया में होगा।
अच्छा, वो भी हैदराबादी है या
बांग्लादेशी नेशनल।
Okay. Now, this Huji is completely linked, isn't it, to the ISI? I mean, even the Huji Bangladesh has functioned with complete patronage from the ISI, hasn't it? In the past, Mr. KC Singh, when these cases came up, we took a position. We took the evidence, we mounted the evidence, we showed the evidence, and we took on Pakistan. What's going on now?
See, Pakistan's managed to convince the policy makers here that we are a victim of terror. So there is an equivalence which has come out. We have lost control. These are groups in the tribal areas. These are spawning. They are fighting us. They may be fighting you also. So in this whole game, it becomes very difficult to decipher what part of the Pakistani establishment is involved with this, what part is not involved. So there is this miasma of doubt which they create.
So when did we buy this line?
This line has been gradually bought over. If you start right from the time after the 2008 26/11, whenever they wanted to revive the dialogue, this is the argument given to us. Initially, of course, we had a moral advantage.
Yeah.
But once I think you said Indians are responsible for the Samjhauta Express, and we had the Indians. Now Pakistan's got moral equivalence with you. Look, we got 26/11, you got Samjhauta Express. We are the victims of terror, you are the victims of terror. So then we said, all right, let's keep it aside. In the meanwhile, let's see, there are doables, whatever we can do with Pakistan, we must do. Now there's a conundrum for the government, because when you're dealing with them, it is a weak government in Pakistan. The ones you deal with are obviously not probably the ones directly involved in this. The ones involved in this will have links to the military and so on and so forth. There also, how much of a direct link to the top most levels in the military is there is difficult to determine.
Why are we buying the camouflage? It's a camouflage which is going on.
Because I think there is a sense of conviction here that unless you move forward, Americans also tell you the same thing, that you must keep talks going, you must keep the door open.
Evidence is completely different. I mean, you know, again I'm coming to you, disagreed with the point, Leela Ponnappa. Yeah, sorry, I want to complete.
You take, for instance, what went wrong with this. You take Batla House. I've been talking to some people in Delhi police. The demoralization of the Delhi police started there. They had an inspector killed. They had a few people they caught. Then General Secretary of the Congress Party comes in and says, well, they've just caught wrong people. He empathized with them. National Human Rights Commission got involved. Delhi police went into a defeatist and a very defensive mode. Now all the leads they had of the Indian Mujahideen there, I don't think they were followed through. Because if you follow through on those leads, and you're going to be attacked for going after a certain community, then you're going to have a problem.
We go on the politicization. Then I'm sorry, Leela, but you said there you disagree that domestic policy and foreign policy is moving in different directions. I mean, domestic policy, the Home Ministry has reams of evidence that links Huji, ISI. In fact, the entire operations that have been going on even in the northeast, the two principal organizations in the past, the ULFA and the PULF, have also been managed by the Huji. So Huji has been used by the ISI to gain strategic depth into this entire region.
And also deniability.
So one, strategic depth. Second, deniability is because they outsource it to Bangladesh, which in turn outsources it to some local groups. We are not drawing the line back. In the absence of drawing the line back, that's why I told you.
No, let me start with this. You see, I'm not getting into this business of who in which ministry or whatever, because within every ministry, I can assure you there are huge differences of opinion also. The point is, we're looking at what the government of India does. Let's start with the whole policy of zero tolerance.
Yeah.
Okay, this has been proclaimed by the President to Parliament. It is accepted as an article of faith and so on. Externally, we seem to have, or I would say elements in the government seem to have bought this particular point about Pakistan, and we follow a kind of unidimensional thing. Either we are talking and you talk about the Thimphu spirit and stuff like that, but the terrorism part, the discourse, as you have rightly pointed out, drops. Internally, what happens? We catch culprits, they go through a court process, there is a sentence passed, but the sentence is never carried out. Now let us just fast forward this to a few years. Let us say some people are caught for today's act. Let us say they go through a trial. Let us say they are convicted, and let us say there is a sentence. Are we going to get the same voices that today are pleading for the remission of certain specific sentences in those cases also? And then what happens to the families and so on? So this is the dichotomy that I talked about in the overall management. The diplomacy is a part of it, but the legal aspect is also part of it. And I would like to emphasize on the police, or excuse me, just let me finish this point. Please. On the policing aspect, the procurement of equipment has virtually come to a standstill. There is the demoralization that Casey talked about, and let us say there was no intelligence whatsoever. By now, our assessments should be clear enough that you have to integrate this into anything that we do.
We are flawed in our foreign policy approach. We have a domestic policy. We're terrible in the implementation. So we are messed up at both levels. But the guy on the ground is going to say, the person who's fighting terror on the ground is going to say, what are you doing to stop the tap from where it is coming? And therefore I'm coming back to the question of, therefore this discussion is, have we let Pakistan off the hook? If we officially let Pakistan off the hook, and then there is an agreement that terror and talks must simultaneously go together. And we must try our best not to link the two.
No, we have to keep up the pressure, and it is not just through the exchange of dossiers.
No, but not a single statement.
This is where
we've had a statement, and it's a completely hypocritical statement that's come from Pakistan expressing dismay at the attack that's happened. If from the evidence that is being gathered, preliminary, if there's an IM link, then there is a Pakistan angle to all the incidents which have happened in the last 1 year.
Today's event has to be investigated. And this is the management of today's event. The larger issue that you have raised, you're absolutely right. I don't think we should let it drop. I don't think we should let that discourse drop with regard to Pakistan's responsibility, because Pakistan is intractable, whereas Bangladesh has delivered.
Mr. Ranade is saying something, coming straight back to you after that. Yes, Mr. Ranade. Yes, Mr. Ranade.
I just want to comment on this. I just want to comment on this thing about, we must talk to Pakistan. I quite agree we must. But we can certainly bring terror onto the agenda in a priority fashion. After all, why can't we talk to Pakistan in terms of jointly tackling terror which emanates from there? It's not the first time that they're going to be engaging in such a discussion. They have such a discussion on with the Chinese. They're picking up people, Uyghurs from Pakistan, and handing them over to the Chinese. There's no legal system involved there. We can try and talk to them about something similar. That's the first point. The second is, we have to adopt a thinking that we are going to go in for a preemptive and preventive kind of approach on terror, rather than a post-mortem or post-event kind of approach which we seem to be following. I think both these are doable, and this is the way we will need to proceed to tackle terror as it is.
Absolutely. I want to get in at this stage, Mr. Verma. Yes, Mr. Verma, sorry.
I think there is a absolutely terrible disconnect between the evidence that we have locally within the country and that we have received from our friends outside, and which is also in the world literature openly available. All that evidence and the policies that we make externally as well as internally, which should have taken into account all that evidence produced locally as well as received from friends.
You're talking about evidence. K.C. Singh, I think you were in the government yourself. 1 minute, sir. You were in the government yourself when evidence was given to Pakistan, vetted by M.K. Narayanan, that Samjhauta was the handiwork of the Lashkar-e-Toiba?
No, I was there earlier. I was in the first anti-terror group.
Yeah.
And I remember for testing them, we gave them the evidence. This is about Pandya's murder. and we had evidence about somebody living in Karachi who had run away from Ahmedabad. And we gave the address, and when we checked with them next time, IB told me that within 7 days of giving them the names, those people were shifted from there. And when I asked the Pakistani side, they said, you know, we've mounted a guard on that road for the last 6 months. Impossible to find somebody in Karachi.
No, this is evidence.
What is it?
They don't want to act at all.
They will not. You can take a horse to
They will not. It is an intractable.
Because they are not acting doesn't mean that we shouldn't be acting also. We have to act on the basis of our own evidence and evidence we have received from diverse sources.
But if they are not accepting the evidence, they're not accepting the evidence, does it mean that we don't make one statement?
No. What I mean to say
demanding action.
Our policy, both external and internal, must be based on the evidence that we have.
Yeah.
But there is disconnect, and this is not what is happening.
I need to be able to come in now. The first thing we must understand, yes, your focus is, you're trying to draw the focus back to Pakistan, but let's get our house in order. We don't have the evidence right now of the bombings, the attacks that took place at Jama Masjid. We don't have the evidence even now after scientific investigations being called for at the Sheetla Ghat bomb blast. We don't have any equipment that the government can produce evidence of having bought since 26/11. The government doesn't seem to be able to fill up police vacancies.
I follow you on this.
Most importantly, Arnab, you know, Chidambaram's passed on the blame to Delhi police, but remember, Delhi is one state in India where the Home Ministry is also responsible for the security, and it's a complete failure of security on the part of Home Ministry. It's hit on our face. We are taking no steps in this country. Every time, let me tell you, I am the one who points fingers maximum at Pakistan, but it's time to do a wake-up call at home. We are not doing enough. We have not moved at all on any of the recommendations.
We also don't know what happened in the Chinnaswamy Stadium in April 2010. We don't even know what happened in the Pune German bakery blast.
Absolutely.
Now we are told that the NIA will handle this alone, and I think people will be looking at what the NIA does.
In fact, this is the precise problem. This is the precise problem. In fact, what should have been said is that the NIA will work with Delhi police, because they are the ones who can do the ground investigation.
After agency, but not strengthening the guy on the ground. He's still walking with a stick.
And a question that could be asked is of the police commissioner, precisely what is there on the ground? Because I think after 26/11, Delhi went supposedly into overdrive. We were told initially for the Commonwealth Games, but I'm told a lot of that was rented equipment and was sent back after the games were over. But as I said, procurement has come to a standstill, and there is very patchy installation of preventive equipment.
But if you said all these cases, there's no action. What about the list of unsolved terror cases, which keeps on mounting? The number of cases which go on ad nauseum, and to each of these cases, there is a terror attack which happens, and then you have references.
Mr. Verma touched on this point earlier. We've all talked about it. There is lack of political will. There is lack of political understanding on how to secure our citizens and our country. And we are not involving our citizens and the corporate houses and everybody else in supporting this national drive. If India is going to be $1 trillion economy, for heaven's sake, don't wait for David Headley to tell you that Indian Mujahideen exists. Do your own homework at home.
Mr. Bhadra Kumar, finally, I know we have to keep the talks going, and I know you have a strong view on it. I respect your right to have your view. It's time. Do you think it's time we stop treating Pakistan with kid gloves on this? Because the bureaucrat, the policeman on the ground, will stop even trying to collect evidence that points a finger to Pakistan if he thinks it's going to be pointless, if the political establishment is not going to take a look at it.
And why are we giving away targets?
No, I don't
you
think
have metal detectors don't work. You have CCTVs that are not installed because of one visit by Bombay police, which was not complete to London. So what are we? We are a complete joke.
And after the May attack in Delhi, I'm told that there is currently a squabble going on with regard to where the budget will come from.
Okay.
So the question is, who owns national security?
Last word to Mr. Bhadra Kumar.
Yes or no? I can't hear you. Yes?
Mr. Bhadra Kumar. Last question to you. Is time to stop treating Pakistan with kid gloves? Time to start opening the links once again to where they come from?
No, you see, I don't think that effort ever ended. We must understand this, that, that China, they call an all-weather friend. and it's not just a suicide bomber or a bomb blast or something like this. You know, what is happening in Xinjiang is for destabilizing China. You know, destabilizing an entire province, you know, and in terms of secessionism, political separatism, and that is clearly, you know, originating from Pakistan. But look at the way, you know, that they are working. Russians have also been at the receiving end, and Russians have today constituted a forum with Pakistan to work on this. So our government's approach, India's approach, my conviction all along, is the only approach possible. You know, theoretically it is possible for us to say tighten the screw on Pakistan and all the rest of it. You know, we can't do that. And earlier what I heard, I 100% agree with that there is a whole lot of things to be done first at home. And unless we straighten these things out, you know, if we just keep pointing finger at Pakistan, we lack credibility. I mentioned to you David Malone's book, you know, this is overall the opinion, you know, in the international community, nobody takes us seriously.
Well, Mr. Bhadra Kumar, we all need to look at only the last 6 or 7 cases. We need to then ask how many of these cases have had the Indian Mujahideen link. Then we need to say, is there a link between the Indian Mujahideen and the Karachi project? And then the final question will be, if there is a link, why are we so quiet about it? Why are we talking about? Why aren't we talking about it? What are we scared of? What is holding us back? These are some questions we'll need to ask to all my guests tonight. Thank you very much for joining me. On the other side, detailed report on a day when terror once again reared its ugly head. See you tomorrow. Good night. Goodbye.